Wow, this chapter is truly amazing, from Garp's last hype act of sacrifice, to the Blackbeard pirate's power, to the insane flashbacks, to Kobe's crazy ascension to legendary character this chapter, as I predicted last chapter, mind you, remember that, return of Luffy, and so much more. So make sure to stay tuned for this truly great chapter. I say that in all honesty. As usual with a chapter before a break like this one, Oda delivered big and took out the big guns. The color spread we get this week is epic and hyping up the One Piece live action Netflix show, as we see some of the characters that will star in the first season, including Shanks, Buggy, Mihawk, Arlong, and more. So hype. Honestly, I'm very hyped for this adaptation, since Oda really seems on board too. And it's not far now, with the premiere date being August 31st, 2023, so about a month and a bit away. Very excited for that. Smash that like button if you are as well. And if you haven't, join the Nakama today by subscribing and hitting that notification bell to turn on all notifications so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. But back to this epic chapter called The Last Lesson. We see a flashback of Garp teaching, and specifically, he's teaching a young Kobe as well as others, and that really takes me back to the beginning of One Piece. Always crazy to be reminded how far we've come. Garp says lesson 1, an old man and a baby. You are currently riding on a boat that can hold 2 persons, what will you do? Kobe says he will get off and let the 2 of them get to safety. And hilariously, Garp hits him with a chalk and tells him, "Wrong, you fool. It's better to leave the old man because he doesn't have long to live." Clearly, the title Last Lesson and even this flashback seems to be preparing us for the Marines leaving the old Garp behind, since that's what he taught them to do after all. But let's see if things will unfold quite like that. Garp tells them that they became Marine soldiers so they could save the future of the people. And the young, like them, have a lot more future than someone like the old man, in this hypothetical example. So they must live on with the baby. Later, Garp gets reprimanded and is asked to not do that lecture again, since all lives are equal, but as usual, Garp doesn't care. He does things his own way, and we love him for that. It's definitely a personality trait we'd sooner associate with a pirate than a Marine, but Garp managed to pull it off, and props to him for that. We get a funny translator note too that says, "LOL, yet you guys, aka the Marines, serve celestial dragons who view their lives as more important than low class or inferior species." And yeah, you definitely gotta be ignoring the celestial dragon unfairness to make a statement like that. Garp, for his part, is stubborn and says the future of the youngsters is limitless. And I love this optimism in a legend like Garp. I think most of us put the old legends on a pedestal like Goldie Roger and Garp compared to someone like Kobe, but Garp knows that the new generation will eventually replace and maybe even surpass the old, and that does seem to be the point of One Piece. If you pay attention, Luffy is not just being set up to be another pirate king, but to surpass the old one and accomplish something even Roger couldn't because it was too early. It seems this shift where the new generation is replacing the old is well on its way now, with the fall of first Whitebeard and then way more recently Big Mom and Kaido, and now even seemingly Garp for the Marines. Then we get a more recent flashback to several weeks ago on the island of women, Amazon Lily. Marines are crying too because they never got permission to do anything because Blackbeard is a Yonko, and they wish to be saved because they don't know what Blackbeard will do to them on Pirate Island. Kobe then approaches, and Blackbeard wonders if Kobe wants to wage a full-scale war, while it's pointed out that Kobe is a sword member. Kobe acts like he did as a kid and says in exchange for 800 Marine soldiers and 1 battleship, he will allow himself to be taken. Blackbeard thinks he's overestimating himself, but it hypes up Kobe further. He didn't lose in battle, but allowed himself to be captured. In many ways, this is a Kobe chapter that finally for us, the readers, presents him as the epic Marine hero. He's already been called the hero of the Marines like Garp, but it was because of something off screen, and now Oda is finally on screening it for us, so to speak. Now back to the giant Pizarro hand coming down on the ship in the present. Cannons are doing nothing to that hand. That's how powerful it is and how big it is. They are overwhelmed by the ridiculous power and prepared to jump into the sea, which by the way wouldn't be that useful since Kuzan could just freeze the sea and freeze them in it. On Pirate Island we return to Garp and people turning to him for what they should do. Garp simply smiles and says, "You can save them," meaning the people on the ship. He will create an opening, and then he says Captain Kobe will step up and destroy the giant hand. Even Kobe wonders if he can even do it against that giant island monster hand. Garp, as if knowing he can, simply continues and says Rear Admiral Groose will protect the ship from debris resulting from the hand's destruction, and how Meppo will make sure no one gets in the way of these two. Love seeing how Meppo included in this too, and he will play an epic role as we'll see. They all follow orders, and people assume, as probably some readers did before, that the others are useless without Garp. It's said that they can't do anything, even going so far as to call Kobe a damn brat instead of a hero. Even Groose is like, bro, he said you can destroy it, but do you have a bomb or something? And Kobe just says, no, but he'll see what he can do. And I love this so much because I think of how cautious Kobe used to be as a kid and how he always doubted himself. And now he has the confidence to just wing it and trust that he'll figure it out. I love to see it. And like I said in the last chapter, Kobe would do something big here, and he is charged with pretty much doing just that. Even Groose is shocked by Kobe's confidence, saying, what you can do, you're up against a hand that's capable of crushing an entire battleship. And this is just a great overall chapter because everything comes together so beautifully. A dude launches a cannonball at the two, and Helmeppo gets to play his role and cuts the cannonball, taking the explosion so that the other two don't have to. Yes, maybe Helmeppo could have done more, but I'm still hyped that he got to partake and be epic in his own way. We jump back to the epic Garp to see what he's up to. Kuzan says, where do you think you're going with those severe wounds? While Garp says, they're just flesh wounds. You know, the usual badass anime character thing to say in this situation. Garp calls Kuzan too naive as he jumps into action. He rushes past Kuzan at an insane speed, mind you, and heads towards the giant skull of the pirate island. He then has an epic moment where he launches the attack Galaxy Divide on the skull. Pizarro's real head feels it too, and Kobe sees this as the quick opening Garp spoke of. As a result of this attack, Pizarro lifted the arm that was gonna crush the ship, buying them some time. Kobe promises he will answer to Garp's expectations. Now, although Pizarro seems to be holding his skull together so it doesn't fall apart as a result of Garp's punch, he's still pretty much fine. He moves to crush the ship with the giant free hand he still has, so Garp here bought some time, but he didn't save the day himself. That's still left for Kobe. But before we can see what Kobe does, we jump into another flashback, but don't worry, it's worth it. It's a conversation Garp had with Helmeppo, saying Kobe has improved very quickly, but he seems to have a lot of wounds. He always wraps bandages on his hands. In the present, Kobe jumps in front of the hand, and people think he's crazy, saying being called a hero has really gotten to his head. But Garp trusts him, knowing the truth. But back to the flashback, Kobe back then asked Helmeppo to keep quiet about it, but Kobe knew he was a normal person, Rock Lee over here, and that he didn't have talent for fighting. So he knew increasing his effort tenfold wasn't enough. He'd have to do it 100, no 200 times more than anyone else. He knew he had to train harder and become an outstanding Marine that could protect everyone. And Garp was obviously impressed, saying, even after training with me, probably the strictest teacher, he's doing even more. And Helmeppo said he does it every night. Helmeppo even felt so bad for him that he begged him to stop, but Kobe kept going. Kobe punched the battleship bag from last chapter continuously with his blood-soaked hands. In the present, we see Garp's knowing grin, and then Kobe, as people say, it's a hand against an ant. And that's what it looks like. But what an ant Kobe is. Everyone but Garp is telling him that he's crazy, that nothing can be done, but Kobe simply says if he can't destroy this hand, everyone will die. After all, if they jump ship, Aokiji will just freeze them, as was pointed out. He then uses Honesty Impact, a name much more epic than it sounds. Kobe and his Haki tear through the giant arm to everyone's shock, and Pizarro cries how much it hurts his real body. Now the questioning and doubting turns to cheers. And like clockwork, as people are starting to worry about the debris, Groose steps in to keep it from falling on the ship with his clay nest. As Garp laughs with tears of joy in his eyes, Helmeppo is shocked at Kobe, and Groose even says, since when did you have this kind of power? Obviously, such an insane attack took a lot from Kobe, but Helmeppo is there to save his exhausted body. So again, Helmeppo being useful. Very nice. Kobe is cheered for destroying a hand the size of a mountain. As people start to think this is a complete victory and now you just need to wait for Garp to get on board, Garp phones in saying the mission to save Captain Kobe has been accomplished and all of them should get away now. He lies, saying he'll do something about himself. He says this day will one day be known as a threat to all pirates, and although Kobe still wants to turn back, Groose with tears in his eyes obeys Garp. As Garp says, now go forward, all of you are the future of the Marines. Garp laughs, but Kuzan has pierced him with a bunch of ice, and now the rest of his body is turning into ice as well. It's a nice touch that Kuzan isn't happy about it either, since killing this legend is also killing his mentor. And the narrator says, in tomorrow's paper, the return of young hero Captain Kobe, the unknown fate of the legendary hero Vice Admiral Garp in Pirate Island, and the siege barricade incident at the future island Egghead by the Emperor Straw Hat Luffy will be reported to the whole world. we're told the stage returns to Future Island and to Luffy's hype confrontation with Kizaru and Elder and more. So I'd say now it's safe to assume that Garp is done because, like Roger before him, he laughed in his final moments. And that's much more fitting end for someone like Garp than in the last chapter where he was just in pain. And now Koby rose to replace him, so there won't be a vacuum left behind. And even if he does somehow survive, based on this chapter, I'd say it's safe to assume Garp won't be a major player moving forward, as he's left that in the capable hands of the younger generation he has so much confidence in. So whose victory would you say this is? Let me know in the comments. The Marines for rescuing Koby and damaging Pirate Island in the process, or the Blackbeard Pirates for taking down the legendary hero Garp? On paper, this definitely seems to me like a big Blackbeard Pirates W, since they took down a legend without even having Blackbeard and many other important pirates present, but Koby using the tragedy to fully come into his own is no doubt significant too. But if you liked seeing former Admiral Kuzan in action this chapter, then you won't want to miss my video about all 6 admirals in history and their powers explained. You can click the link on screen to that right now, and I'll see you there.